The transport's engines died 3 parsecs from Vexor Prime, and Lieutenant Marcus Webb knew something was wrong before the emergency klaxons confirmed it. "Coolant leak in the primary drive," the pilot announced, her Vexian mandibles clicking nervously. "We're drifting." Marcus floated toward the cockpit viewport, magnetic boots disengaged in zero gravity. Beyond the reinforced glass, the Academy station hung like a jeweled crown against the void humanity's first foothold in galactic military education. He dreamed of this moment for 3 years, ever since Earth's provisional acceptance into the Union. How long until rescue? He asked. 6 hours. Maybe 7. The pilot's translator rendered her anxiety perfectly. "Life support will hold, but it's going to be uncomfortable." Marcus settled against the bulkhead, reviewing his acceptance files on a datapad. The documents carried warnings he'd memorized. Human physiology requires special monitoring. Evolutionary adaptations may cause alarm among non-terrestrial species. Exercise caution during physical assessments. Caution. As if being human required an instruction manual. The Academy had never hosted an Earthborn cadet before. Marcus would be the first to attend full officer training rather than the abbreviated cultural exchange programs that passed for humanity's galactic introduction. The weight of that responsibility pressed harder than any gravity differential. "Tell me about the Academy," Marcus said, hoping conversation would ease the pilot's obvious stress. "What should I expect?" Her mandibles stilled. "You've read the orientation materials?" "Multiple times. I want to know what they don't publish." The pilot's skin shifted through several uncertain colors, a Vexian emotional tell Marcus had learned to recognize. "There are ... concerns, not about humans specifically, but about unknowns. Your planet's classification raises questions." "Death world status," Marcus said flatly. "I'm aware. Most species avoid such worlds entirely. The fact that humans evolved intelligence there defies conventional xenobiology." She paused, choosing words carefully. "You'll be watched constantly. Every physical response measured. Every behavioral pattern analyzed. Sounds exhausting." "It will be. For everyone involved." The pilot's tone carried something Marcus couldn't quite identify. Was it sympathy? Warning? The Academy prides itself on unity through diversity. But diversity has limits, and nobody knows where humans fall within those boundaries. Marcus watched Vexor Prime rotate slowly in the distance, its docking rings glittering with approaching vessels. Somewhere aboard that station, instructors were reviewing his files, preparing assessment protocols, building frameworks to understand something they'd only encountered through databases and theoretical models. Earth had joined the galactic community 6 years ago, bringing with them a planet that rated 12 on the Death World Index, higher than any colonized system in Union space. The revelation had sparked academic debates, diplomatic concerns, and one very uncomfortable Senate hearing where a Drathan representative had suggested quarantining Earth for everyone's safety. Humanity had responded by requesting military academy access, arguing that any species worthy of Union membership should contribute to collective defense. The Senate had agreed, cautiously, with enough conditional clauses to fill 3 legal documents. Marcus was the result of those conditions, carefully selected, extensively vetted, representing 4 billion humans who'd never left their hostile little world. "What do you know about Earth?" he asked the pilot. "Only what the databases contain. Extreme tectonic activity, volatile weather systems, aggressive predator ecology." She hesitated. "And continuous warfare spanning your entire recorded history. That part concerns people. We've been at peace for 18 years. 18 years out of 10,000 documented. You'll forgive others for remaining cautious." Fair point. Marcus had studied enough xenopsychology to understand that most Union species had abandoned large-scale conflict millennia ago. Their histories featured wars measured in months, casualties in thousands, resolved through diplomacy once both sides recognized the futility of violence. Earth's wars ran for generations. Casualties reached millions. Entire cities vanished beneath nuclear fire or biological plague, and humanity had simply rebuilt, kept fighting, kept killing each other with steadily improving efficiency until someone finally suggested trying something different. The pilot's communicator chimed. Rescue vessel inbound. 20 minutes to intercept. Marcus nodded, returning his attention to the Academy station. Somewhere in those gleaming corridors, his future waited along with classmates who'd spent their lives on garden worlds, where danger meant weather fluctuations or equipment failures, not planetary environments actively hostile to life. He wondered if they'd understand what it meant to be human, to come from a world that had tried everything to kill his species and failed, to carry in his DNA the accumulated survival traits of 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare. The rescue vessel appeared, its approach vector perfect despite the debris. Field, professional, controlled, everything about Union operations radiated the careful precision, the luxury of species who'd never needed to improvise survival. From the raw materials of existence, Marcus closed his files and secured his gear. Whatever happened next, he'd face it the same way humanity had always faced the unknown, with stubborn determination and the bone-deep conviction that any challenge could be overcome with sufficient application of will, even if it meant being the most monitored cadet in Academy history, even if it meant carrying the weight of humanity's reputation on shoulders, built by a death world's ruthless selection pressure. The rescue ship's docking clamps engaged with a metallic thunk that resonated through the transport's hull. Marcus felt his heart rate increase slightly, anticipation, not fear, his body preparing for action despite the absence of actual danger. Just another reminder that he wasn't like them, might never be like them, but he was here. And that would have to be enough. The Academy's receiving bay smelled wrong, too clean, too sterile, like hospitals Marcus remembered from childhood visits. 63 cadets stood in formation, representing species from across the Union's 17 sectors. Marcus joined the end of the human delegation. Just him. Instructor Velk approached, a Vexian whose mandibles clicked in careful rhythm as he reviewed his datapad. Cadet Webb, welcome to Vexor Prime. His optical sensors performed a visible sweep, cataloging details. You'll proceed to medical processing for baseline assessment. Understood. Sir, your quarters are in Section 7. Isolated from general population during initial evaluation period. Velk's translator struggled with what might have been an apologetic tone. Temporary precaution. Isolated. The word carried implications Marcus had expected but hoped to avoid. He followed Velk through corridors that curved in ways Earth architecture never quite managed. Past observation windows showing training facilities where cadets practiced the zero-gravity maneuvers and tactical simulations. Medical Officer Thane waited in Examination Bay 3, her Krillian sensory arrays flickering with barely contained curiosity. Cadet Webb, remove your jacket and place your hand on the scanner plate. Marcus complied. The scanner hummed, lights cycling through spectrums invisible to human eyes. Thane's expression, insofar as Krillians had expressions, shifted through several configurations, none of them reassuring. Your resting heart rate is elevated, she noted. I just arrived. Still processing the transport failure and rescue operation. Thane pulled up comparative data, holographic displays showing cardiovascular baselines for various species. Marcus's readings sat near the high end. Blood oxygen levels are remarkable. Your hemoglobin carries 30% more capacity than galactic average. Adaptation to Earth's atmospheric composition, Marcus explained, repeating what he'd memorized from xenobiology reports. Our air has higher oxygen content than most habitable worlds. Yes, I've reviewed the specifications. What concerns me is how your system will respond to Academy atmosphere, which follows Union standard protocols. Thane magnified a cellular analysis. Your muscle tissue density is also unusual, significantly higher than predicted for your mass. Earth's gravity is 1.2 standard. We evolved stronger skeletal and muscular systems to compensate. Thane's sensory arrays focused intently on Marcus. You speak as if you've prepared these explanations. I have. Figured I'd be asked. Perceptive. She initiated another scan series. I'm seeing elevated stress hormone levels. Adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine. Are you feeling anxious? Marcus considered lying, then decided honesty served him better. Moderately. New environment, unknown social dynamics. Awareness that I'm being evaluated against standards my species never developed for. Honest assessment. Thane recorded notes. What you describe as moderate anxiety would register as severe stress for most species. Your chemical markers suggest fight or flight activation. I'm just sitting here. Precisely my concern. Your baseline appears to be what others experience as crisis response. She pulled up Earth's environmental data, reviewing it with what Marcus recognized as growing unease. Class 12 Death World classification. I'd reviewed the statistics, but seeing your physiological adaptations in context ... makes it real? Marcus suggested. Makes it alarming. Thane closed the display. Proceed to orientation. I'll be monitoring your integration closely. Report any unusual symptoms, dizziness, fatigue, respiratory difficulty. Understood, ma'am. Marcus left medical processing, carrying a tracking badge that would log his location. Every moment, he remained aboard the station. The isolation quarters in Section 7 turned out to be comfortable, but unmistakably separate, an entire corridor away from other cadets, with reinforced doors and what looked suspiciously like observation equipment embedded in the ceiling. His roommate's situation had been postponed pending evaluation. Academy. Speak for nobody wanted to share quarters with the unknown. Variable. The orientation briefing happened in a massive amphitheater. Tiers of seating arranged around a central holographic display. Marcus found a spot in the upper section, noting how other cadets gave him space. Not hostile, just ... cautious. Like approaching unfamiliar machinery. Commander just materialized on the central platform. A Krellian form impressive, even by Union standards. Welcome to Vexor Prime Military Academy. You represent the finest candidates your worlds have offered. Here, you will be transformed from individuals into a unified force dedicated to galactic security. The speech continued standard inspirational material about duty, honor, cooperation. Marcus listened with half his attention, using the rest to observe his fellow cadets. Most were smaller than him, built for worlds with lower gravity. Many possessed additional limbs, enhanced sensory organs, or biological features Earth evolution had never considered. None looked like they'd spent their developmental years learning to survive planetary conditions that rated actively hostile on colonization surveys. Physical. Training begins tomorrow, Gis announced. All cadets will participate in baseline fitness assessments calibrated to their species' capabilities. Performance will be measured against established standards for your biological classification. Marcus wondered what standards existed for a species that had only joined the Union 6 years ago. Probably hastily assembled estimates based on incomplete data and theoretical models. Tomorrow would provide actual measurements. He suspected the results would concern people. After orientation, Marcus returned to his isolated quarters and reviewed training schedules on his room's interface. The Academy had flagged several of his courses with special notations. Modified protocols approved for human physiology. Observation required during physical assessments. Medical standby mandatory for combat training. They were scared of him. Not maliciously, not discriminatory. Just genuinely uncertain what would happen when a death world species entered situations designed for garden world biology. Marcus understood their caution. He also knew it would make everything harder. His communicator chimed with an incoming message from Earth, his sister Rachel, using precious bandwidth allocation to send encouragement. Make us proud. Show them what humans can do. Marcus stared at the message for a long time, feeling the weight of 4 billion people's hopes pressing down like Earth's gravity. Then he began preparing for tomorrow's assessments, reviewing protocols, stretching muscles that had evolved to carry mass through hostile environments. Whatever happened next, he'd face it the same way his species had always faced impossible situations. By refusing to quit until the universe itself acknowledged humanity's right to exist. The Academy would either accept him or break trying to understand him. Marcus suspected they'd be surprised which outcome proved more likely. The training arena sprawled across 3 levels of the Academy's primary facility, equipped with adjustable gravity zones and environmental controls that could simulate any known battlefield condition. Marcus arrived early, joined 60 other cadets in the staging area where instructor Velk reviewed safety protocols. Today's assessment measures baseline physical capability. Velk announced, mandibles clicking with professional precision. Each exercise is calibrated to your species' established parameters. Performance outside predicted ranges will trigger additional evaluation. Marcus caught the glances directed his way. Outside predicted ranges. Translation: if the human does anything unexpected, we'll stop everything and analyze why. The first test involved a simple obstacle course climbing walls, balance beams, rope traverses. Standard military fundamentals. Marcus watched other cadets navigate the course with varying degrees of success. The Drathan candidates moved with impressive power, their high-gravity adaptations making them natural climbers. Vexians demonstrated remarkable coordination across multiple limbs. Cadet Webb, Velk called. You're next. Marcus approached the starting line, aware of the monitoring equipment that had suddenly activated throughout the arena. Medical Officer Thane appeared on the observation deck. Her sensory arrays focused entirely on him. The timer activated. Marcus ran. The first wall required a climbing rope. Standard rope, meant for species with hand strength, evolved for grasping branches or manipulating tools. Marcus's grip, developed through 2 million years of primate evolution, refined by living on a world that punished weakness, locked onto the rope with casual power. He scaled 12 meters in seconds. Balance beam next narrow, elevated, requiring precise foot placement. Marcus crossed it quickly, his proprioception and spatial awareness honed by childhood spent climbing trees and navigating urban environments where falling meant injury. The rope traverse stretched 20 meters across a simulated chasm. Marcus gripped, pulled, moved hand over hand with rhythm born from physical education classes that Earth children endured throughout adolescence. Gym class, humanity called it. Torture, most had complained, never realizing their planet demanded that level of fitness just for basic survival. He completed the course and checked the timer, 47 seconds. Decent time by Earth standards, nothing remarkable. The monitoring equipment was screaming. Cadet Webb, halt, Velk ordered, his translator struggling with whatever emotion accompanied the command. Remain in position. Marcus stopped, suddenly aware that every eye in the arena had locked onto him. Medical drones appeared, scanners active, surrounding him like he'd become a containment scenario. "Sir?" Marcus asked carefully. Thane descended from the observation deck at remarkable speed. "Your cardiovascular output increased 200% during that exercise. Muscle activation patterns exceeded predicted parameters by 40%. You're showing adrenaline levels that should trigger emergency medical intervention." "I ran an obstacle course," Marcus said slowly. "Basic physical exercise. What you describe as basic generated physiological. Readings consistent with survival crisis response in most species." Thane pulled up holographic displays, showing his biometric data. "Your heart rate peaked at 170 beats per minute. That's normal for cardio exercise. Normal for humans. Potentially fatal for 60% of union species." She magnified his muscle activation scans. "You recruited fast-twitch muscle fibers and coordination patterns we've never documented. Your body responded to a training exercise like it was fighting for survival." Marcus looked at the obstacle course walls he'd climbed hundreds of times in academy preparation. Exercises he'd considered warm-up material. "I wasn't even trying that hard." The arena went very quiet. "Explain," Velk said carefully. "I mean, I was moving quickly but not pushing my limits. Just running the course at comfortable speed." Thane exchanged glances with Velk, a silent communication Marcus couldn't interpret. "Cadet Webb, what would constitute pushing your limits?" Marcus considered the question. "Competition pace. When you're racing someone, trying to set personal records. That's when you really push. And you train at that intensity regularly? Most serious athletes do. It's how you improve performance." More silence, broken only by the monitoring equipment continuing its alarm chirping. "Cadet Webb," Jis said, appearing suddenly on the observation deck. Her Krellian sensory arrays performed visible analysis. "Your entrance examination included psychological evaluation. Do you recall the section addressing pain tolerance?" "Yes, ma'am." "Questions about injury response and recovery experiences. You mentioned breaking your arm at age 12 during athletic activity. Describe the experience as annoying because it prevented you from participating in sports for 6 weeks. That sounds accurate." Broken arm represents catastrophic structural failure of primary skeletal framework. Most species require surgical intervention and months of immobilized rehabilitation." Jis's tone carried what might have been disbelief. "You found it annoying." Marcus began understanding the problem. "Ma'am, on Earth, broken bones are relatively common injuries, especially for children. We immobilize the limb, let it heal naturally. Bones regenerate. 4 points in perhaps 8 seconds. The monitoring system was broadcasting Marcus's biometrics across every screen in the facility. Elevated heart rate, increased adrenaline, muscle activation patterns that continued generating concern among observers who'd never seen combat physiology in action. But Marcus wasn't injured, wasn't exhausted, wasn't even particularly winded. He just demonstrated what millions of years fighting on a death world could produce when channeled through formal training and disciplined application. The arena had gone absolutely silent. Match concluded, Velk announced, his mandibles performing complex patterns Marcus couldn't interpret. "Cadet Webb, remain in position. Medical assessment required." Medical drones surrounded Marcus, scanners confirming what he already knew: minor stress response, nothing approaching danger levels. Baseline human combat physiology doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. Then appeared, reviewing data with visible distress. "Your pain suppression neurotransmitters spiked to levels that should indicate severe trauma." "I'm not injured, ma'am. I understand that. What concerns me is that your body prepared for catastrophic damage that never occurred. You're operating under constant assumption that violence means survival crisis. Marcus considered how to explain Earth's reality. Ma'am, on my world, physical confrontation does mean potential survival crisis. Our bodies evolved assuming every fight might be lethal. Better to over-prepare than under-prepare. That's... Thane searched for words. That's the mindset of a prey species. Except you're clearly not prey. We're both, actually. Humans hunted and were hunted for millions of years. We developed predator instincts and prey vigilance. Made us really good at violence from both perspectives. Jis descended to the training floor, her Krellian form radiating authority. Cadet Morax, explain your request for modified parameters. Morax struggled to articulate something his translator couldn't quite capture. Commander, we needed to know if the statistics were accurate. If humans truly possess combat capabilities exceeding theoretical projections. And your conclusion? The statistics were conservative, ma'am. Significantly conservative. Jis turned to Marcus. Cadet Webb, you executed approximately 15 distinct combat techniques in that engagement. Where did you learn them? Mixed martial arts training, ma'am. Started when I was 8 years old. Earth tradition, most human children participate in some form of combat instruction during development. Most human children, Jis repeated slowly. You teach juveniles to fight. We teach them discipline, physical fitness, and self-defense through structured violence. Yes, ma'am. It's considered character development. The implications washed across the arena like physical force. Humanity didn't just tolerate violence. They systematized it, taught it to their young, treated combat proficiency as fundamental education alongside mathematics and literacy. Commander, Thane interjected. I'm recommending immediate review of integration protocols. The behavioral assumptions we've based on garden world psychology don't apply. At all, agreed. Jis addressed the assembled cadets. What you witnessed represents the reality of Death World evolution. Humans developed capabilities we've never encountered because they survived conditions we've never imagined. This changes nothing regarding Cadet Webb's standing, but should inform all future interactions. She paused, sensors cycling through analysis spectrums. Humanity requested Academy access to contribute to Union defense. I suspect we're beginning to understand what that contribution might entail. Marcus felt the attention not hostile, but intensely focused. He'd wanted to prove humans could integrate. Instead, he demonstrated that integration meant accepting something genuinely alien. Not in appearance, but in fundamental operating principles. They saw garden worlds where danger was theoretical. Humans saw a universe that had spent 4 billion years trying to kill them and failed. Different baseline. Different normal. Different understanding of what survival actually required. Dismissed, Jis ordered. Cadet Webb, my office. Immediately. Marcus followed the commander through corridors that felt smaller than before. Aware that somewhere in the Academy's administrative networks, people were revising their understanding of humanity's place in galactic civilization. He'd come here to learn military strategy from the finest tactical minds in the Union. Apparently, he'd be teaching them a few lessons first. Whether they were ready for those lessons remained uncertain. But Marcus suspected humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy might be forcing everyone else to reconsider what ready actually meant when the universe itself was your training ground. Commander, Jis's office occupied a corner of the Academy's command section, offering panoramic views of the surrounding star system. Marcus stood at attention while Jis reviewed data streams across multiple holographic displays. Her Krellian sensory arrays processing information at speeds his human neurology couldn't match. At ease, Cadet, she said eventually. This isn't disciplinary. It's complicated. Marcus relaxed his posture, but maintained alertness. Ma'am? Just closed several displays, leaving only one active Earth's planetary classification file. I've spent the past 3 weeks researching human history. Your species' development timeline raises questions our xenobiologists can't adequately answer. What kind of questions, ma'am? How humanity survived long enough to develop civilization. Just magnified Earth's environmental hazard data. Your planet experiences regular catastrophic events, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, tsunamis. Mass extinction events occur every few million years. Disease organisms evolve at rates that should overwhelm any immune system. Predator species hunted your ancestors for millions of years. We adapted, Marcus said simply. Adaptation implies gradual change over evolutionary timescales. Your species demonstrates adaptations that should have required billions of years of selection pressure, compressed into mere millions. Just pulled up genetic analysis. Human DNA contains more redundancy, more repair mechanisms, more survival contingencies than any known species. It's as if your genome was designed expecting constant catastrophic damage. Marcus remained silent, unsure where this conversation was heading. Then there's your cultural development. Just continued. You achieved spaceflight while simultaneously maintaining weapons capable of rendering your planet uninhabitable. You developed global communication networks while fighting wars across 6 continents. You created art, philosophy, and advanced mathematics while your average life expectancy was 30 years due to disease and violence. We're complicated, Marcus offered. You're impossible, just corrected. Every model we have for civilization development assumes species abandon violence as they advance technologically. You refined it, made it more efficient, built international law around rules for proper killing because you couldn't stop long enough to prevent it entirely. She closed the human history files, opening something else: Union military records, fleet deployments, strategic assessments. 3 weeks ago, I submitted your performance data to Union Strategic Command. Standard procedure for anomalous assessment results. Yesterday, I received a response. Jiss's tone carried something Marcus had learned to recognize as concern. They want more humans, immediately, as many as Earth can provide. Marcus felt his pulse increase slightly. Ma'am, Earth's integration is still provisional. We have limited academy slots, restricted technology access. Strategic Command is recommending those restrictions be lifted entirely. They're proposing accelerated integration protocols, expanded recruitment programs, and what amounts to preferential treatment for human military candidates. Jiss met his gaze directly, because they've realized something I've been trying to ignore. Ma'am? The Union has maintained peace for 3,000 years through overwhelming force superiority. Our fleets are larger, our weapons more advanced, our strategic doctrine more refined than any potential adversary. Jiss pulled up threat assessment files. But we've been fighting theoretical battles against theoretical enemies, using theoretical projections of what conflict might require. And humans have been fighting actual battles. Marcus completed the thought. For 10,000 documented years with no significant interruption. You've tested every strategic principle through direct application. Failed, adapted, tried again. Your entire civilization is a continuous military experiment conducted under conditions that would destroy any other species' social cohesion. Jiss highlighted specific sections of Union military doctrine. Our tactical manuals assume engagements conclude when casualties reach 10%. Historical analysis of human conflicts shows you regularly fought until casualty rates exceeded 70%. Our logistics calculations allow 3 days of supply disruption before operational capacity degrades. Human militaries have functioned for months with non-existent supply chains. Through improvisation, we can't begin to model. Marcus understood the implications now. Strategic Command wants to weaponize human experience. They want to learn from species who actually understand warfare rather than theory. And frankly, Webb, the more I review human military history, the more I understand their reasoning. Just pulled up a specific battle Stalingrad, Earth date 1942. 2 million casualties. 6 months of continuous urban combat. Both sides fought until their forces were literally incapable of continuing. We won that battle, Marcus said quietly. Won. Jiss's translator emphasized the word. You categorize engagements like that as victories. Union forces would have negotiated peace after the first week. Humans fought for months in conditions that should have broken any organized military force, then rebuilt and continued the war for 3 more years. She closed the battle analysis, returning to Earth's current status. Here's what I need you to understand, Cadet. Your presence here isn't just about individual integration anymore. You're the template for something much larger. Strategic Command wants to build human-advised units, integrate Death World psychology into Union doctrine, fundamentally alter how we approach galactic defense. Is that wise, man? Marcus asked carefully. I don't know. That's what concerns me. Jiss leaned back, her posture suggesting exhaustion, a concept Marcus hadn't realized Krullians could express. Humans scare us, Webb. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're competent at violence in ways we've never witnessed. You treat warfare as a solvable problem rather than existential horror. We've had a lot of practice, ma'am. Didn't have much choice about that. Precisely. Which raises the question Strategic Command hasn't adequately addressed. What happens when we give a species forged in continuous warfare access to technology designed by species who abandoned conflict millennia ago? Marcus considered his response carefully. Respectfully, ma'am, I think you're asking the wrong question. Explain. You're worried about what humans might do with Union technology. But humanity didn't request Academy access to become better at killing. We want to learn from species who've actually maintained peace, who've built something lasting without destroying themselves in the process. Marcus gestured toward the window, the star system beyond. Earth has been at peace for 18 years longest in recorded history. We're trying, ma'am. Really trying to be something better than what 4 billion years of survival selection made us. Jiss studied him with intensity that made Marcus uncomfortable. You believe that? That humanity can integrate peacefully despite your evolutionary programming? I believe we can learn. That's why I'm here. That's why Earth requested membership despite knowing we'd be monitored, restricted, treated as potential threats. Marcus kept his voice steady. We're tired of being good at violence, ma'am. We wanted to be good at something else. The office fell silent except for the ambient hum of station systems. Jiss eventually nodded, a gesture she'd adopted from human body language during their conversations. Strategic Command will proceed with their expansion proposals regardless of my concerns, she said. But I want you to understand the responsibility you're carrying. Every human who follows you into Union military service will be watched for evidence of either integration success or catastrophic failure. Your performance doesn't just reflect on you. It determines humanity's future relationship with the galactic community. Understood? Ma'am, I doubt that, Cadet, but you'll learn. Jiss reactivated the training data. Marcus's combat assessment playing in slow motion. What you did in that arena wasn't remarkable by human standards. That's exactly what terrifies people. Your normal is exceptional by any other measure. Should I be apologizing for that, ma'am? No, but understand that every action, every choice, every demonstration of human capability will be analyzed for what it reveals about your species' true nature. Jiss met his gaze again. So tell me, Cadet Webb, what is humanity's true nature? Marcus thought about Earth, beautiful, hostile, unforgiving. Thought about human history, violent, creative, stubborn. Thought about his sister's message, make us proud. We survive, ma'am. Whatever it takes, however long it requires, against whatever challenges the universe presents. We survive, and we help others survive too. That's what we're good at. Everything else is just details. Just studied him for a long moment. Dismissed, Cadet. And Webb? I hope you're right about humanity's intentions. Because if you're not, we've just invited something into Union space that we have no capacity to contain. Marcus saluted and departed, carrying the weight of those words through corridors, where his fellow cadets trained for theoretical conflicts while humanity prepared to teach them what actual war looked like. Strategic. Command wanted human expertise. The galaxy wanted peace. Marcus wanted to believe those goals were compatible, but somewhere in the back of his mind, trained by a death world's ruthless education, a quiet voice whispered that the universe rarely gave anyone everything they wanted. Usually, it gave them exactly what they needed. Whether they were ready for it or not, the simulation chamber could recreate any battlefield scenario. The Academy's tactical database contained 14,000 historical engagements spanning 3,000 years of Union military operations. Instructor Velk had selected carefully: urban evacuation under hostile fire, civilian casualties imminent, standard extraction protocols inadequate. This scenario has a 7% historical success rate, Velk announced to the assembled squad. Marcus stood with 7 other cadets, reviewing mission parameters that spelled catastrophic failure across multiple projections. You have 40 minutes. Squad leader Cadet Torin, proceed. Torin established reconnaissance protocols, careful, methodical, exactly what Union doctrine prescribed. 42 minutes of planning, positioning, synchronized timing. Textbook execution that would result in 17 civilian casualties during extraction and 3 military losses. Marcus watched the approach vectors, calculating alternatives his instructors hadn't intended him to consider. Requesting permission to propose alternate strategy, sir. Valk's mandibles clicked warning patterns. Proceed. Simultaneous breach at 3 entry points. Overwhelming force concentration. Rapid extraction during enemy confusion. Timeline: 7 minutes from initiation to evacuation completion. That's not a strategy, Torin objected. That's suicide with paperwork. It's aggressive, Marcus acknowledged. But passive approach guarantees casualties you're calling acceptable. I'm suggesting we make them unacceptable by changing parameters. Velk studied Marcus with the intensity that had become familiar. Your proposal assumes enemy response patterns follow predictable logic. No, sir. It assumes enemies respond to overwhelming, unexpected aggression with temporary disorganization. We exploit that window before they adapt. Squad vote, Torin declared. Standard Academy procedure, democratic decision-making, supposed to build unit cohesion. 6 votes for reconnaissance. 1 abstention. Marcus's hand stayed down. We are Kresh Dominion. You have violated our expansion corridor. Your union exists on our tolerance. That tolerance has expired. The transmission cut. 3 more monitoring stations vanished from tactical displays. Precise destruction that left no survivors. Strategic assessment, just said, addressing her senior officers. Marcus stood among them now, given field promotion to tactical advisor when the abstract threat became concrete reality. They possessed technological advantage, the Drathan Fleet coordinator said. Weapons output exceeds our defensive capabilities by significant margin. Shields demonstrate resilience beyond our projection models. Recommendation? Withdraw. Establish defensive perimeter at Union core systems. Negotiate from position of preserved strength. Marcus watched the tactical display, calculating vectors and analyzing attack patterns with instincts humanity had refined through 10,000 years of continuous warfare. Something didn't align. "Permission to speak, Mom," he said quietly. "Granted." They're overconfident. Classic mistake when facing apparently inferior opponents. Marcus highlighted their attack formation. Look at their positioning. They're bunched for maximum firepower concentration, assuming we'll retreat rather than engage. They've prioritized offensive capability over defensive preparation. Because their technology is superior, the coordinator objected. Aggression would result in catastrophic losses. Calculated losses, Marcus corrected. Acceptable if they achieve strategic objective. Ma'am, recommend immediate counterattack using concentrated force against their flagship. They won't expect inferior opponents to press attack when retreat appears logical. You're suggesting suicide, Torrance said. He joined the command staff as squad coordinator. Their ships outmatch ours by every metric. Their ships, not their crews. Marcus pulled up human military history battles where technologically inferior forces had defeated superior opponents through aggression and tactical surprise. Technology advantage means nothing if crews aren't prepared to use it under pressure. Union forces have 3,000 years of peace. Crash Dominion is testing us because they think we've forgotten how to fight. We have forgotten, the coordinator said quietly. That's the point. We haven't engaged in peer conflict since achieving Union unity, but humans have. Marcus met Jiss's gaze directly. Ma'am, I can teach your fleet commanders how to fight enemies who match your capability, but only if they're willing to accept what warfare actually requires: casualties, aggression, willingness to hurt enemies faster than they hurt you. Jiss studied the tactical display. Her sensors processing implications Marcus could only guess at. If we engage and fail, we lose fleet assets we'll need for core system defense. If we retreat, we confirm their assessment that Union has no capacity for actual conflict. They'll press advantage, push deeper, because we've demonstrated weakness. Marcus pulled up Earth's strategic doctrine. Humans learned this principle through painful experience. You never surrender initiative to aggressive opponents. They'll interpret restraint as fear and exploit it. Your entire species thinks like military strategists. Thane observed from her medical station, monitoring stress responses across command staff. Our entire species learned survival requires understanding violence. Made us good at warfare because death was the alternative. Marcus returned attention to tactical display. Ma'am, recommendation stands. Immediate counterattack. Concentrated force. Target their flagship. They'll panic when inferior opponents press aggressive engagement. We exploit that panic before they adapt. Jiss cycled through analysis spectrums, calculating options Marcus couldn't begin to comprehend. Finally, she nodded. Fleet directive. All available vessels engage enemy formation. Primary target: crash flagship. Authorization for aggressive tactical doctrine. Human combat principles approved for implementation. The command center erupted in controlled chaos orders transmitted. Vessels repositioning, defensive platforms retargeting. Marcus felt his heart rate stabilize into combat rhythm. His mind processing tactical variables with focus that had generated medical alerts during training. Now that focus might save lives instead of concerning doctors. Union vessels engaged. Crash forces with uncharacteristic aggression. Concentrating firepower on the flagship despite taking heavy return fire. The crash formation wavered. They'd expected retreat, prepared for pursuit. Optimized for destroying fleeing opponents rather than defending against determined assault. Their shields are adapting, the sensor operator announced. But slowly, They weren't prepared for sustained engagement. Maintain pressure, Gis ordered. All vessels, maximum offensive output. Accept damage, maintain attack vectors. 3 Union vessels sustained critical damage. Casualties climbed 17 confirmed dead, 43 injured. Numbers that would have triggered immediate withdrawal under standard doctrine. Marcus watched the display, calculating acceptable losses against strategic necessity. Ma'am, their flagship shields are weakening. Recommend coordinated strike, all remaining offensive platforms. Now. Just didn't hesitate. Execute. 15 plasma lances converged on the crushed flagship, simultaneously overwhelming. Concentrated force that penetrated shields through sheer volume rather than technological superiority. The flagship's reactor containment failed catastrophically. The explosion illuminated tactical displays with brilliant intensity. Debris cloud expanding through space where a warship had dominated moments before. The remaining crash vessels hesitated visible. Pause in their tactical coordination as commanders. Reassessed opponents who'd just destroyed. Their superior through aggressive application of inferior technology. They're withdrawing, the sensor operator announced. Enemy vessels retreating to system edge. Jump signatures detected. The crashed Dominion vanished into faster-than-light transit, leaving destroyed monitoring stations and damaged Union vessels in their wake. Also leaving strategic uncertainty. They'd retreated but not been defeated. Tested Union capabilities and learned uncomfortable truths about how far galactic peace had degraded combat readiness. Casualty report, Gis said quietly. 41 confirmed dead. 97 injured. 3 vessels require extensive repair. 2 monitoring stations destroyed completely. 41 lives. 41 people who'd reported for duty expecting routine patrol operations, not combat with peer adversaries. Marcus felt the weight of those numbers, understanding intellectually that his tactical recommendation had saved hundreds while costing dozens. The math worked. The casualties were acceptable by strategic calculation. But standing in the command center, watching medical teams coordinate evacuations, Marcus understood why Union doctrine prioritized caution. His species had 10,000 years to develop emotional calluses around acceptable losses. Union civilization had spent 3 millennia learning to value every life, because they'd created a galaxy where violent death became rare enough to matter individually. Cadet Webb, Gis said, her tone unreadable. Your tactical assessment was correct. Aggressive engagement prevented deeper incursion. Strategic command will undoubtedly classify this engagement as successful defensive action. Yes, ma'am. Marcus kept his voice level. Professional, refusing to acknowledge the emotional weight pressing down like physical force. It will also serve as template for future conflict doctrine. Human combat principles have proven effective against peer adversaries. Gis pulled up casualty lists, her sensors focusing on each name individually. At considerable cost. War always costs, ma'am. We just decide which costs we're willing to pay. And humanity decided this calculation was acceptable? Bones regenerate, Thane repeated, her translator adding emphasis Marcus suspected wasn't present in the original language. They're living tissue. They heal when damaged, usually stronger than before. Marcus looked between the 3 officers. Do other species bones not do that? Not without extensive medical intervention, Velk said quietly. Fractures represent potentially permanent damage for most Union species. The implications settled over Marcus like physical weight. His normal was their catastrophic. His baseline was their emergency. Every aspect of human physiology that seemed unremarkable to him represented an adaptation to conditions that would kill most galactic citizens within weeks. Permission to speak freely, ma'am? Marcus asked. Granted, Gis replied. I think we need to recalibrate expectations. Human physiology evolved under conditions you've classified as uninhabitable. What seems extreme to union standards might just be normal for us. Different baseline, not defective biology. Gis descended to the arena floor, approaching Marcus with measured steps. You understand this presents complications for your training integration. Yes, ma'am. But respectfully, humans requested Academy access because we believe we can contribute meaningfully to Union defense. Can't do that if we're constantly stopped for generating medical alerts during normal activity. Normal activity, Velk said, mandibles clicking rapidly. Your normal just set 3 facility records simultaneously. Marcus hadn't known that. Sir? Fastest obstacle completion time, highest sustained cardiovascular output, greatest muscle recruitment efficiency. Velk pulled up the records display. The previous records were held by a Drathan candidate who trained for this assessment for 8 years. You've been aboard this station for 18 hours. Other cadets were staring now. Expressions ranging across species-specific indicators. Marcus was learning to recognize respect, fear, confusion. Apa, Meridian cadet in the front row, had biometric sensors flashing colors Marcus associated with alarm. Recommendation. Thane said, addressing Gis. We continue assessments under controlled conditions with enhanced monitoring. But we adjust alert parameters to account for human baseline physiology. Otherwise, we'll trigger emergency protocols every time Cadet Webb performs normal human activity. Agreed, Gis replied. Cadet Webb, you'll proceed with training under modified observation protocols. However, I'm assigning you a liaison officer, someone to help interpret behaviors that might trigger concern among instructors unfamiliar with human norms. Understood, ma'am? And Webb? Gis's sensory arrays focused intently. Welcome to the Academy. I suspect you're going to teach us as much as we teach you. Marcus saluted, feeling the weight of those words. He'd wanted to prove humans could integrate into galactic military society. Apparently, he'd proven it by simply being himself, which terrified people more than any aggressive display. The training assessment continued, but Marcus noticed the difference. Other cadets gave him wider space. Instructors monitored his performance with visible intensity. And somewhere in the facility's administrative sections, people were undoubtedly revising protocols to accommodate something they'd never imagined needing to plan for. A species that treated death world conditions as childhood development. A species that considered broken bones annoying inconveniences. A species that had looked at a planet trying to kill them and responded by becoming unkillable enough to leave and introduce themselves to a galaxy unprepared for what evolution could produce when survival required absolute excellence. Marcus completed the day's assessments, setting 2 more facility records without trying, and returned to his isolated quarters, wondering if humanity's greatest contribution to the Union might simply be forcing everyone else to reconsider what normal actually meant. His sister's message waited on his communicator. How'd it go? Marcus considered his response for a long moment before typing. They're concerned I'm too normal. It's complicated. 3 weeks into his academy tenure, Marcus had settled into an uncomfortable routine. Modified training protocols, constant monitoring, and the peculiar experience of being simultaneously accepted and isolated. His classmates treated him with professional courtesy that never quite crossed into genuine camaraderie. He understood why. Every shared meal involved watching him consume quantities of food that seemed excessive by Union standards. The metabolic price of muscle tissue evolved for high-gravity survival. Every training session generated biosensor alerts his instructors had learned to acknowledge and dismiss. Every casual action carried the reminder that he came from somewhere fundamentally different. The combat fundamentals course should have been straightforward basic hand-to-hand techniques, defensive positioning, controlled sparring under heavily monitored conditions. Instructor Velk had designed modified protocols specifically for Marcus, restricted contact parameters, mandatory protective gear, continuous medical oversight. They're up. Velk ordered during the week's fourth session. Controlled engagement. First to 3 contact points advances the training progression. Marcus had been paired with Cadet Torin, a Drathan whose high-gravity physiology made him one of the few students who could match Marcus's mass. They'd trained together before, developed mutual respect, understood each other's capabilities. Today, 3 other cadets approached instead. Instructor Velk. Cadet Morak said, his Athetheran limbs gesturing formally. Training regulations permit uneven groupings with consent. We request modified exercise parameters. Velk's mandibles went still never a positive sign. Explain your reasoning. Cadet Webb has operated under restricted protocols since arrival. We believe practical assessment against multiple opponents would provide valuable data regarding human combat capability. Marcus felt the arena's atmosphere shift. Other cadets had stopped their exercises, attention focusing on the conversation. This wasn't about training. This was about something else, curiosity maybe, or the desire to establish hierarchy through direct challenge. Cadet Webb, Velk said carefully, do you consent to modified parameters? Marcus could refuse. Should refuse, probably. The political implications of injuring multiple Union cadets during his first month would complicate Earth's galactic integration for years, but refusing would confirm their suspicions that humans required special protection, that Death World status meant fragility in practice despite impressive statistics. It would establish a precedent that would follow him and every human who came after through their entire military careers. I consent, sir, Marcus said, provided standard safety protocols remain in effect. Velk's translator emitted something that might have been a resigned sigh. Medical Officer Thane, full monitoring active. Safety override engaged. He addressed the 4 cadets. Controlled contact only. Excessive force results in immediate discipline. The arena's training zone activated, creating a bounded space with cushioned barriers and impact-absorbing flooring. Marcus moved to center position, awareness expanding to track all 4 opponents simultaneously. Morax, Torin, Cadet Vess from a low-gravity colony, and Cadet Recan, whose species possessed natural armor plating. Begin. Velk announced. Morax moved first. A straightforward charge utilizing superior reach. Marcus had trained against this approach, understood its limitations, knew that Athetherans telegraphed their strikes through subtle postural shifts. He waited until the last instant, then rotated inside Morax's guard, not faster than his opponent could track, just faster than he expected. Marcus's palm strike connected with the nerve cluster below Morax's primary joint. Light contact, technically correct, enough to score the point. Contact. The monitoring system announced Torin and Vess attacked simultaneously from flanking positions. Coordinated assault designed to overwhelm through positioning advantage. Marcus dropped his center of gravity and movement. His Earth-trained body executed instinctively and redirected Torin's momentum into Vess's approach vector. Both cadets collided with each other instead of their target. Contact. Recan hesitated, reassessing. Smart. He'd watched 3 academy-trained combatants fail against techniques that looked simple but required precise timing and spatial awareness humanity had refined through millennia of organized violence. Your move, Marcus said, not taunting, just acknowledging the tactical situation. Recan attacked anyway, using his armor advantage to attempt overwhelming force. Marcus met the charge with an open-hand deflection that redirected kinetic energy rather than opposing it. Directly judo principles adapted for alien physiology. Rikan tumbled past, momentum carrying him into the barrier padding. Contact. They executed Torrens' plan. Perfect coordination. Textbook tactics, 17 simulated civilian deaths, and 3 cadet casualties that would have been fatal without medical intervention. Scenario complete. The simulation announced. Performance rated adequate. Casualties within acceptable parameters. Marcus stared at the holographic bodies, civilians who died during careful evacuation, soldiers who'd fallen during planned withdrawal. Acceptable losses. "Permission to speak, sir," he said quietly. "Granted," Velk replied, something in his tone suggesting he'd expected this. "With respect, sir, those casualties weren't acceptable. They were predictable consequences of insufficient aggression." Marcus pulled up alternate tactical projections he'd calculated during observation. 3-point simultaneous breach, concentrated force application, 7-minute extraction. Projected casualties, 0 civilian, possible military injuries, but no fatalities. "Your projection assumes perfect execution," Torn argued. "It assumes competent execution under pressure, which this squad has demonstrated in 15 previous scenarios. The difference is willingness to accept risk." Velk expanded Marcus's projection across the display. "Cadet Webb, your alternate strategy violates 4 Union tactical doctrines, including the fundamental principle of soldier preservation." "Yes, sir." "Because Union doctrine prioritizes preventing military casualties over preventing civilian casualties. Different values, different outcomes." The simulation chamber went very quiet. Commander Gis entered the observation deck, having apparently monitored the exercise. "Cadet Webb, explain your statement regarding Union values." Marcus chose his words carefully. "Ma'am, Union military doctrine reflects civilizations that achieved peace through overwhelming technological advantage. You can afford caution because you've never faced enemies who matched your capabilities. Acceptable loss calculations assume you're always operating from a position of strength." "And human doctrine?" Gis asked. "Assumes you're always outmatched and need to compensate through aggression, adaptability, and accepting that some risks are worth taking." Marcus gestured toward the simulated battlefield. "We lost 15 million soldiers in a single war that lasted 6 years. Another war cost 50 million civilian lives. We learned that cautious approaches just prolong suffering when facing determined enemies." Thane appeared on the observation deck, medical sensors active. "You're describing warfare as mathematics. Casualty calculations, like supply logistics. Because that's what it becomes at scale, ma'am. Individual tragedy multiplied until it becomes statistical analysis. Human military leaders learned to think that way because we didn't have overwhelming technological advantage. Couldn't afford to lose slowly." Gis pulled up Union military history, highlighting conflicts that had shaped galactic doctrine. "Our decisive battles involve fleet engagements, technological superiority, strategic positioning that prevented ground combat entirely." "Yes, ma'am. You fought enemies who recognized they couldn't win and surrendered rationally. Humans fought enemies who preferred death to surrender, who used civilians as shields, who employed weapons we declared illegal and did it anyway because survival mattered more than rules." "You sound like you're defending war crimes," Torrens said carefully. "I'm explaining why human doctrine evolved differently. We fought total wars where both sides committed atrocities because the alternative was extinction. Made us really good at violence, but also really motivated to find better solutions." Marcus pulled up Earth's current status. 18 years of peace, ma'am. We're learning. But we can't pretend our history didn't happen or that it didn't shape how we think about conflict. Valk studied the tactical projections, mandibles performing complex patterns. Your alternate strategy would work. Statistically, it provides optimal outcome. But it requires accepting personal risk that Union training specifically discourages. Because Union training prepares soldiers for conflicts where they're technologically superior. What happens when you're not? When enemies have equivalent or better technology? When careful doctrine fails because the enemy doesn't follow predictable patterns? The question hung in the simulation chamber like physical presence. Finally, Jis spoke. Strategic Command received threat assessment yesterday. Border regions are reporting unusual activity on unknown vessels. Advanced propulsion signatures, coordinated movements suggesting organized force rather than random pirates or exploration. Marcus felt his pulse increase slightly. Ma'am, preliminary analysis suggests we may be facing adversary capable of matching Union military capability. First time in 3,000 years. Jis's tone carried weight Marcus recognized from his own military family. Strategic Command believes humanity's combat experience might prove essential to developing effective response doctrine. You need humans to teach you how to fight peers rather than inferiors, Marcus said quietly. We need humans to teach us how to fight when technology doesn't guarantee victory. When battles require human elements, aggression, adaptability, willingness to accept terrible costs for strategic necessity. Just pulled up the expanded recruitment proposal. Earth has agreed to fast-track military integration. Within 6 months, this academy will host 300 human cadets. Within 2 years, Union Fleet Command structure will incorporate human tactical advisors at every level. Tolan made a sound his translator rendered as disbelief. You're militarizing an entire Death World species because we might face actual conflict? We're accepting that species which evolved through continuous warfare might understand aspects of combat we've forgotten during our millennia of peace. Jis addressed the entire squad. This changes nothing about Academy standards or expectations. But understand that human integration isn't cultural exchange anymore, it's strategic necessity. Marcus understood the implications immediately. Humanity had requested peaceful integration, careful mentorship, gradual acceptance into galactic civilization. Instead, the Union was accepting humans specifically because they were good at violence. Because Death World evolution had produced exactly the skill set nobody hoped they'd need, but everyone feared they might. Cadet Webb just said, Strategic Command wants human input on defensive preparations. You'll be working with senior tactical officers to develop response protocols for peer conflict scenarios. Ma'am, I'm a first-year cadet. You're a human with cultural understanding of total warfare. That makes you more qualified than officers who've spent careers studying conflicts that never approached the intensity of Average Tuesday in human history. Jis closed the displays. Welcome to your actual assignment, cadet. We didn't bring you here just to train. We brought you here to teach us how to survive what's coming. The simulation chamber powered down, holographic battlefield fading into neutral gray. Marcus stood among cadets who suddenly viewed him differently, not as curiosity or concern, but as resource they desperately needed. Humanity had wanted acceptance. They'd gotten weaponization instead. Marcus wondered which outcome would prove more dangerous for everyone involved. But somewhere in the back of his mind, trained by a planet that had spent 4 billion years teaching survival through violence, he suspected humanity would adapt to this role the same way they'd adapted to everything else. By becoming exactly what the situation required, whether they wanted to or not. The unknown vessels appeared at System Edge 37 days after Strategic Command's threat assessment. Marcus was reviewing defensive protocols with senior tactical officers when emergency alerts screamed through the Academy's command center. Multiple contacts, the sensor operator announced, his Vexian mandibles locked in distress patterns. Configuration unknown. technology signatures beyond Union classification parameters. Commander Gis appeared in the command center within seconds. Her Krellian sensors processing data streams faster than Marcus could track. Fleet status? Union response vessels 3 hours distant. Academy defense platforms active, but outmatched. The sensor operator's voice cracked. Commander, these ships. They're systematically destroying our outer monitoring stations. Precision targeting, overwhelming firepower. Casualties? 73 personnel confirmed lost. Station 7 Alpha completely destroyed. Marcus felt his heart rate increase, not panic. But the physiological preparation, his death world evolution, had refined through millions of years. His mind shifted into combat analysis mode, processing tactical data with focus that had concerned his instructors during training assessments. Communication attempt, Gis ordered. The response came immediately, audio transmission that translated through multiple processing layers before becoming comprehensible. Union vessels. You occupy territory we claim by right of superior capability. Withdraw or face systematic destruction. The voice carried absolute confidence backed by demonstrated power. Marcus recognized the tone from human history conquerors addressing victims, strength speaking to weakness. Identity verification, Gis demanded.